Hello crochet lovers, how are you? Welcome to a new Christmas tutorial here in Crochet Lovers. Today we'll learn the Santa Claus inspired gloves. As you can see, they are fingerless, and I assure you they are very easy to make and super quick too. In just a couple of rows, we'll have these gloves ready for this holiday season. So we'll be using this yarn for a 4 or a 5mm hook. We'll need about 50 grams in color red and a bit of yarn in the colors yellow, black, and white. I'll be using a 4mm hook, and keep in mind that my measures are a suggestion because I'll be measuring the glove as we move forward with it. We begin with a simple slip knot. If you don't know how to make one of these, you'll find the basic crochet curves for beginners in the pull down eye. And then we make 7 chains. Now we make 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and after that we'll make 1 single crochet in each chain that's available until we get to the other side. This is the width of the wrist. If we need it to be thicker, we just need to add some more chains. For the next row and all others after this one, we chain 1, and we'll only work the back loops of our stitches. Remember that every stitch has 2 loops, and we'll only insert the hook in the back loop in order to make the single crochet stitches. We make one of these in each back loop of our stitches from the previous row until we get to the other side. The last one tends to hide a bit, but there it is. We have finished our second row and we keep moving up. We must go all the way around our wrist. Let's say your wrist is as big as mine. This would be your guide then. But when we get to the middle part, we stop to make some lines in white yarn. So we keep moving up until we cover most of the wrist. Okay, so this is the part I mentioned. We started right here. And now we cover all the wrist from the back. And once we are halfway at the front of the wrist, we'll make some lines in white yarn. For those lines, we bring in the white color we chose to use. We switch the color here, and we do the same thing but with this color now. 1 chain, we turn the project, and 1 single crochet in each back loop. We take advantage of this row in white to hide the initial thread in these stitches. There we go. And now we make our first single crochet using white. We keep going, the same instructions apply here. We only change the color. We have finished the first row. I'll make one more with the same instructions. We can leave the yarn there, and now we go back to the color red. We still apply the same instructions until we go around the whole wrist. Remember, it will be of a different size for each person. Nothing changes, we still make 1 single crochet in each back loop. The band for my wrist is done, so we can measure it to be sure, and to check that the lines in white are right at the middle of the front of the wrist. And always try to finish working downwards. By this, I mean that our red yarn should be at the opposite side of our white yarn, and once we are done, we'll make 1 chain up. Now we must attach both ends. And for this, we'll use a slip stitch. So we go in the very first chain we made, and then in the stitch of the last row. We make our slip stitch there, and we keep going. Then we go to the second chain and the second stitch, and so on. We keep crocheting until we get to the end. And once it is attached, we'll flip it over to make sure the stitches are in the inside of the glove. We readjust the hook a little, and this is how the wristband should look. Now we chain 1, and we make 1 single crochet at the corners of the previous rows. We have 2 types of corners. The first is a small knot and the other looks like a tiny hole. So we'll be crocheting in both the knots and the holes. So we work in the knot with our first single crochet, and then in the hole we make the second. Then in the knot, And we keep making one single crochet at the corner of every row. Before we get to the white yarn, we start to make one single crochet, but we don't finish it. We leave the 2 loops there, and we bring in the white yarn to finish the stitch. This way, the stitch will look red, but we'll already have the white yarn on the hook. So we make the 2 stitches that correspond to the color white, and the second one will be finished by bringing in the red yarn, the opposite of how we started, so that we have the red yarn for the rest of the stitches. Now we just keep crocheting until we go all the way around. Great! Now we are ready to close this first row. So we make a slip stitch to attach it to the first stitch we made. Now we bring in the color black in order to make Santa's belt. We pull the yarn a little, and with the black yarn we chain 1. And then we make one single crochet in each stitch available. We can use them to hide the initial thread too. So we make one single crochet in each stitch available. That was the first one. We move over to the second, and then another. This is a very easy row. There's no catch. I'm almost already done. And when we get to the end, we join them with a slip stitch to the first stitch we made. We must repeat this sequence twice in order to have 3 rows in black. These are my 3 rows in black. So we'll leave that color and bring back the red. We bring it in from the back, because we had not cut it yet. And now we'll make one single crochet in each stitch available. We will not close off the rows, we'll work in a spiral. Remember to use the red yarn to hide the black thread. Whenever we get to the part of the white lines, remember not to finish the stitch with the red. Instead, we bring in the white yarn, and now I'll make 3 white stitches, so that the white part looks a bit thicker at the top, because we're mimicking Santa's coat. The third stitch needs to be finished with the red yarn. So now we have the 3 white stitches, and we keep working with the red yarn for the rest of this row. We have to make one single crochet in each available stitch. We leave the white yarn there so we can use it again in the next row. When we get to the end of the row, we will not close it off. We'll make one single crochet right on the very first stitch from the previous row. And so it will grow in a spiral. We keep going, one single crochet in each stitch available. And whenever we get to the white part, we just need to change colors the way we know how. We can hide the red yarn in the white stitches so that we can move it to the other side. Or we can slide it from the back. It's your choice. Remember that for the third single crochet, we'll have to bring in the red yarn, so we can continue with this color. And we keep crocheting with the red yarn. This does not have a beginning or an ending. We don't know where the rows end. So we'll keep growing in a spiral until we need to make the hole for the thumb. I have gone all this way up. I am at the spot where the hole for the thumb needs to be made. I'll make mine on this side. And for the other hand, it will be at the other end. So now we must measure the stitches that we need to give for the thumb to be. For me, it's 4 stitches, but you can make more or less. So on those 4 stitches, I will not crochet anything. We just have to make the same number of chains up. For me, it will be 4 chains. Then we skip those 4 stitches, and in the 5th one, we make one single crochet. See, we have made the hole for the thumb. And we keep crocheting a normal row with the single crochets. And when we get to the hole again, we'll make the same number of single crochets but inside the hole. We previously skipped 4 stitches, so we make those in here. 4 single crochet stitches inside the hole. And for the 5th one, we keep crocheting like we had before, like everything is normal. because we have filled in the hole for the thumb, so we keep going like we did before, until we get to the fingers. Then we make it as high as we want. We can measure it continuously so we can see that our thumb has enough space. If we need more stitches, we can go back and leave some more. I am done now with the body of the glove, so for the last row we will not use the white yarn, and we'll hide it with our red yarn. And when we don't want to keep going up, we just make one slip stitch to close the row, and this will help the edge be flat. We can cut the yarn now, and at this point we bring back in the white yarn to make the edge at the very top. We chain one with the white and we begin with our edge in crab stitch, which is the same single crochet stitch but backwards like a crab. So we insert the hook in the first stitch to the back. We can take advantage of this in order to hide both threads. We yarn over, and we should have 2 loops like in a normal single crochet. We pull through and we have done our first crab stitch. We keep going backwards to the next stitch. We yarn over, we pull through, and we should have our second crab stitch. We just need to keep going until we go all the way around from the back. The crab stitch has an appearance that makes it look like a little roll. To finish this off, we turn the project over once we are done, and we make a slip stitch on the inside, in the same stitch where we made our first crab stitch. And that's it, our edge should look like this. Now we just need to cut the yarn, and we'll make an edge in a single crochet stitch for the thumb. So we insert the hook in any of the holes stitches. We bring in the red yarn. We can also use the white one if we want, but I'll make it in red. So we chain one and we make single crochet stitches all around the edge of the hole. We will have to find those spaces to work in. Wherever there are some holes, we can insert the hook in. See, we should go all the way around, and to close this off, we just need to make one slip stitch in the first stitch we made. We can make more rows of this. I'll make one more with the same instructions. This is how the thumb space looks with 2 rows of single crochets. You can make as many as you want. And the last thing is the belt buckle. I'll make it with a slightly bigger hook, but the yarn has the same width. So we first need to imagine the rectangle. We insert the hook wherever we want to start. We bring in the yellow yarn, and we'll make our buckle with slip stitches. So we insert the hook in the next stitch we want the color to show up. We yarn over from the back. Trust me, it's easier than it looks. And we just make a slip stitch. We then move to the next stitch where we want the color to show up. I made 2 rows of slip stitches, and it looks like this. For the other glove, we'll make the thumb hole on the opposite side, of course. Well, crochet lovers, I hope you liked this tutorial and that you already have your fingerless gloves ready for this holiday season. And of course, thank you very much for watching. See you next week, crochet lovers!